Howdy, folks. It's your old pal David Cobb here. So happy you're joining us again on Democracy in Action, the weekly program that I have the honor to host as part of the Green News Network. And as we always do, a hat tip to Gil Scott-Heron. The revolution may not be televised, but it will be brought to you over sources of non-corporately controlled and filtered news, information, and analysis like the Green News Network. Today, it is my honor to have not one, but two longtime leaders, organizers for the Green Party of Minnesota. We're going to start off with Becky Smith. Becky, welcome to Democracy in Action.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You know, Becky, you and I have known each other for, almost over 15 years now, because I actually remember meeting you back in 2000. So some folks may not know you. In fact, I'm sure many don't, because like so many Green Party organizers, you've been really rooted in your local organizing and your state-based organizing. So I'm going to give you a chance to introduce yourself to our audience. Tell us about yourself.
Great. My name's Becky Smith. I first got involved in the Green Party of Minnesota in 2000 during the Ralph Nader campaign. Later on, Ken Pentel decided to run for governor, and I worked on his campaign. And then we found a need to have more candidates. So I guess I decided in 2004 to run for state representative, and we had the fortunate opportunity to bring David in as well to the University of Minnesota. And I've just been organizing within the Green Party ever since.
And, you know, one of the things that really made me just so happy, quite honestly, because when I first asked you about that, so you said the first thing I did was just sign up. Right. So really, you're sort of an example of how important it is for Green Party organizers to literally collect people's names, emails, and phone numbers and follow up with them.
Correct.
And since that time, of course, you've signed up a lot of people yourself, haven't you?
Oh, yes. Every year, State Fair. We did an event this weekend called Open Streets, where they block off the street in Northeast Minneapolis, and they allow tables and vendors. So that was a pretty good turnout and pretty fun.
And that is and that's literally where I wanted to go next with you, because, you know, since 2004, you and I have really developed a friendship, because I've had the privilege of going back to Minnesota sometimes for Green Party events, for Move to an End, for other social change efforts. And one of the things that I like consistently, Becky Smith shows up with a table, with literature, with sign-up sheets, brochures. So how important for you is that sort of retail tabling opportunity to grow the Green Party?
It's extremely important. It's one of the only times we have a chance to see people face-to-face and actually have that conversation with them. Otherwise, sometimes it's just an email, or maybe they see something in a newsletter. And,
you know, the Green Party, specifically in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis and St. Paul, y'all have had some tremendous victories and run some really strong candidates. I'd like to get you to have the opportunity to share with our nationwide audience a little bit about some of those victories.
Well, with the help of Cam Gordon, we were able to get at least 3 solid victories. One, a ban on...
Before we go forward, I want to stop, because Cam is sort of an institution in Green Party of Minnesota, but don't forget, some of the folks may not know who Cam Gordon is.
So Cam Gordon is currently a Green Party member on the city council. He is currently running for his 4th term for re-election. And honestly,
4 years long. So
correct.
He is one of the longest continuously serving Green Party members in the country as an elected official.
And actually, this year, the Democrats decided not to run a candidate against him. So he is basically the only candidate.
And just, do you know the backstory there? Because Cam actually shared with me that it was not a function of, oh, Cam is such a good progressive candidate that we, the Democratic Farm Labor Party, don't want to run against him. It didn't go down like that, did it?
No, and you probably have a little bit more background. I haven't actually had a chance to talk to Cam about it.
So, all right. Well, I'll take the honor. I wanted you to share it if you knew it, but here is actually, folks, what happened. The Democratic Farm Labor leadership, always more corporate than the rank and file members of the Democratic Party, of course, conducted a survey of its members trying to find a candidate to run against Cam. They commissioned a fairly expensive poll to try to discover Cam Gordon's weaknesses and what his constituents and people in his district or ward actually thought of him. And what they found was he was a beloved city council member. His support was both broad and deep within his own ward. And then they decided to conduct a specific candidate search to try to find somebody to run against them, and they couldn't find anybody. So literally, it was not a function of Cam is such a progressive candidate the DFL doesn't want to run against him. They literally recognized that he is such a good elected official and has so performed constituent services and done the sort of things that his progressive base wants that they just can't really challenge him.
Correct.
And so you were just about to go into some of the things that Council Member Cam Gordon has been able to do as a Green Party elected official.
Yeah, so currently we have a ban on styrofoam from takeout restaurants. We also, with his help, was able to get door-to-door household compostables picked up, kind of like they pick up our trash every week. The way that works is every ton that we send off to compost, we get a ton of dirt back in return the following spring. And so that goes to our community gardens to help green up the city. And then finally, he was able to get a ban on plastic bags. So that was a big victory.
And of course, Cam was, and you and other Greens were active in the 15 Now campaign and a whole host of others. So, I really think it's an example to me, Becky, of how important it is that we not only run candidates, but when candidates get elected, that the Green Party continue to support them. One of the things I remember talking to you and Annie Zimmerman about literally back in 2004 was the importance of Greens actually supporting elected officials once they get elected. I don't know if you remember that conversation, but it really struck me how seriously y'all took not only running in local elections, but continuing to support our elected officials. And you even called them electeds. You made a real big deal about these are Green electeds who have to be not only held accountable, but also supported appropriately so that they're not just sort of on their own when they're going in and engaging at the municipal level.
Correct. And I do want to put a plug. We do have some other candidates this year. Samantha Priest-Stinson is running in Ward 3, which is currently an open seat. In that same district is Billy Menz, who's running for Park Board. We have Charles Etzmer, who is running for Park Board as well, and Cam Gordon running for City Council, and Terry White, who is also running for City Council.
And I had the privilege of meeting most of those candidates. I don't think I met Terry, but I met all the others, and they're really strong candidates. And it'll be hard to pick, but I think I'm probably going to be asking Samantha Priest-Stinson onto one of these shows because as a veteran and a rising star, I think it's important that we lift up our local candidates who are actually running to win. And I think Samantha Priest-Stinson is a perfect example of that.
Yep, she is a great candidate.
And the other thing, Becky, I got a chance to really roll deep with you at the Democracy Convention that just concluded. And I really want to thank you for the amazing work you did on the host committee, because, again, as a social change agent, the fact that you so continuously are involved in the day-to-day grind of organizing and getting people together, I'd just like to invite you to share your thoughts about the Democracy Convention itself, what you observed, what you thought about it.
I have to say it's incredible to have that many people and that great of energy all together and in the building. So it kind of feeds me throughout the week. It's a great time to network and to get to know other activists and what issues they're working on in their hometown.
And, it was really interesting. It looks like well over 600 people circulated between at the University of Minnesota for the Democracy Convention over the course of the time that we were there. And for me, one of the things that was so humbling and so gratifying was every time I walked by that row of tables, and there were a lot of organizations tabling, there was the Green Party table was staffed virtually continuously. I observed multiple conversations. Did you have any conversations that you wanted to particularly reference or lift up?
There are so many that were good. I had some great conversations with some Wisconsin people trying to figure out what was going on in Wisconsin and how we could help them out maybe.
One of the things that I do know actually came up, and that is Zerlina Smith, who's in Chicago, Dotsa Zepps, who is in Wisconsin, and I don't remember who from Minnesota was in the conversation, but I overheard conversation that suggests that there may actually be a Green Party Midwest regional convergence because people were having such a good experience at the Democracy Convention. And I remember saying, yes, another success. It wasn't even part of our plan. But like the idea that this might help to spawn and spur a Midwest regional was fantastic.
I would support that.
And then the other thing that I really want to lift up is it was mostly Minnesotans, to be sure. But I also saw that there was a Green from Texas who helped staff the table for a while. I don't know if you met Sherry, but Sherry was there from Texas staffing the table. We had a Green from California that helped staff the table. So it was really good to see our sisters and brothers just interacting with one another and helping out that way. And
I met a Green from Arizona, too.
See, we are everywhere, Becky. Well, listen, it's always a pleasure to see you. I do want to give you a chance for any final thoughts to the Green News Network or our audience at Democracy in Action.
If you want to get involved in the Green Party, just give us a call or get involved. Our next meeting is going to and we're still looking for a location.
Fantastic. And remember, folks, the Green Party is online everywhere. You can catch us on the web, on Facebook. Most local Green parties will have a phone number. And remember, we're just unpaid volunteers. We're just ordinary people trying to do something extraordinary, which is to build a political party based on peace, justice, democracy, and ecology. We really are peaceful, nonviolent revolutionaries. We want to restructure this society. And if you think that the current society is racist, sexist, and class oppressive, if you think these huge corporations are going to destroy the planet, you might want to actually get involved with us as well. Because what we know is what you know, that if we don't actually stop and change the direction of this country, the direction of this planet, if we don't literally restructure this society, we're going to go over a cliff. And now, my friends, through the magic of editing, through the magic of the technology, and through the skill of Michael O'Neill, you'll probably notice that Becky Smith is not in front of the camera anymore, but instead it's Betsy Barnum. Betsy, welcome to Democracy in Action.
Hi, David. This is really fun. So glad you're doing it.
Thank you so much. And thank you for what you're doing. And Betsy, I just said, I've been knowing Becky for, since 2004, but actually I've been knowing you even longer than that. I think we met in 2001, did we not? Or was it even earlier?
I think it was earlier. I don't remember the year, but it was when the Alliance for Democracy was forming a local chapter here.
You're right.
Julie and Brian Merchant, you came to speak over at, I forget where it was, one of the universities. And I think that was the first time I met you. That was maybe, 99 or something?
It was 1998, actually, with the Alliance for Democracy and that forming. Oh, my gosh. And then, of course, in 2000 and then 2001 for that gathering. So, Betsy, you and I are, as they say, seasoned social change agents. So tell us, though, you have a particular role in the Green Party of Minnesota, do you not?
Well, I do, and I actually am not one of those people you just shouted out to that are all volunteers, because I'm not a volunteer. I am a paid staff person at 8 hours a week for the Green Party of Minnesota, and it was a position that I proposed to them last year, staff, because I have been on the coordinating committee as a volunteer, and I know what kind of support is needed to let those volunteer leaders really do what they want to do instead of having to deal with the trivia of administrative work. So I thought we would have a major party status. I was pretty sure that Jill Stein would get 5% here, and we'd have some money that would come from the state for campaign public financing. We didn't get that, but the party decided it was worthwhile anyway. And so they're doing a lot of heavy duty fundraising to support being able to pay me $15 an hour for 8 hours a week to do administrative work, do the agendas for the meetings and the minutes, and take care of the details so that they can do the reaching out that they want to do.
That's fantastic. So, folks, I want to encourage you, if you have a question or a comment to either me or Betsy Barnum, to please write them in the comments. Technical Director Michael O'Neill, as he always does, will be scanning there through there. And so if there are any particularly interesting or provocative questions, including hard questions, please bring them forward. We really do want to engage with you in any way possible. So, Betsy, you have been a longtime both social change agent as well as specifically a Green Party organizer. In your mind, what is it that's happening these days? I mean, we've been seeing an influx of people not only into the Green Party, but various socialist groups and progressive and left groups. Are you having that experience in Minnesota as well?
Yes, we definitely are, especially since the election. Well, even since before that, since the Democratic National Convention last summer, when the Bernie supporters were treated so poorly by the Democrats, and so many people realized finally that the two-party system was not working. They didn't want to be Democrats anymore, and they turned around and looked for something else. Some of them had never heard of the Green Party yet, but they started hearing about us and coming to us, and we had for a long while, we were having maybe 10 people a week that were signing up on our website as members and wanting to volunteer. That flood has trickled down a little bit to less people per week, but we still have people coming in who are finally realizing that the system is really, really so badly broken that both of the major parties need to be supplanted by something else, and they're willing to work and get active in ways that they haven't before in their life to make something happen. And they're seeing the Green Party as potentially the vehicle for their activism.
So, one of the people that has written in has said, I'd like to know how the Green Party of Minnesota is building a culture dedicated to consistent grassroots fundraising. In fact, that might actually be Michael O'Neill, who, like you, Betsy, is a woefully underpaid staffer for a state party. In Michael O'Neill's case, it's the Green Party of New York. So I'm guessing that this may actually even be coming from Michael O'Neill himself. I don't know that for sure, but I know I'm looking at a question. Yeah, Michael says it is indeed. But so how is it that you're building a culture dedicated to consistent grassroots fundraising?
That is something that's very difficult to answer because it's something we're still trying to do. It does require planning. It requires some creative thinking. One of the things that we have in Minnesota that for public campaign financing, public political financing, is something called Political Contribution Refund Program, where you can give $50 to any political party or candidate and have it refunded by the state. That was suspended 2 years ago by the legislature, but it came into effect again on July 1st of this year. So we are taking maximum advantage of that to encourage people to give $50 or $100 if they're a married couple and if they file their taxes jointly, and get their $50 completely. They can give us free money in a sense. And that way, fundraising we do over and above that can be less of an impact on people.
And my understanding is that the Green Party of Minnesota does have a statewide dues-based structure, correct?
No, we do not have dues in Minnesota. We have free membership. We haven't established dues, but we do have we have always had a drive for sustaining members where you have money taken out of your bank account or your credit card every month, and we're working very hard to increase that because, of course, it's sustaining and sustainable, and it gives us an idea of how much money we'll have to work with.
And I'm curious, what is the typical ask that you have for a sustaining membership? Is it a monthly ask? Is it an annual ask?
Yes, we ask for monthly, and we say whatever you want to give, but we suggest at least $10. And that way one person is giving us $120 a year. That's not a lot per month, but it adds up to a nice amount, and it's regular every month it comes in. And then we ask for them to increase it. We try to always get them to, add a little bit more to that, because another $5 or another $10 maybe still isn't a huge amount for a person who's got a good job.
I mean, I tell people all the time that $10 per person, 10 of them is 100, and you 10 more and 10 more. I mean, it really does add up. And of course, what we know is that small donor fundraising, although it's more difficult, it actually engages more people, and it actually frees us from the need for, and of course we would never take corporate money, but we don't even have to, right? We don't even have to worry about it whenever we build that up.
Exactly.
Now, so one of the things, Betsy, that I'd love to do, because you not only were involved in tabling at the Democracy Convention, you actually presented. So I'd love for you to share with the audience a little bit about what you presented at the Democracy Convention.
Well, I was actually involved in two different presentations. One of them was sponsored by World Beyond War, which I think was one of the main organizers of the Democracy Convention, and it was called Building Local Power for Peace. So I spoke alongside of three other people who had all different approaches, different ideas, different experiences. It was very rich. I talked mostly about political, electoral involvement on the local level, that this is a level of running for office that is still accessible to an ordinary person. You don't need to be a millionaire to run for a city council office. You don't need to raise $1 million. They're more expensive than they should be, but they're still not out of reach. And it's a way for ordinary people to get into the political process, or whether it's supporting a candidate, working on a campaign team, knocking on doors, making phone calls, going to meetings, and being involved and engaged as a citizen. So
that's one of the things that the Green Party of Minnesota actually has done pretty consistently and pretty well. I mean, you really live and personify the idea of being the electoral arm of movements, right? I know that y'all are engaged in movement work, but I think it was even you who once said, the Green Party has a particular role in the movements, a particular responsibility.
Yes, and we do take that very seriously. You're right. We are involved in, as individuals and as a party, in many, many different kinds of social movements. We go out for the Black Lives Matter marches, and we had this Philando Castile verdict that came down a couple of months ago, where the police officer that shot and killed this young black man who was doing nothing wrong was found not guilty, and there was immediate response, and the Green Party was there at that event. If you talk to Samantha Priest-Stinson, she was very involved in that as well, because she's also an organizer with them, or with that aspect of the of social, as well as being a Green Party candidate. So we show up as openly as we possibly can at everything that we can do to be involved in the social movement part of being the Green Party.
But one of the things that there was way back when you and I were in the early days of the Green Party, there was I remember a big, we must be engaged in the movement, and others would say, no, we must do electoral politics, as if that was an either or. And I remember consistently during those debates that representatives from the Green Party of Minnesota consistently said, that's a false dichotomy. We do both. The national party should do both, and locals and state parties all should be doing both.
Yes, and we have done that, and I'm glad if we're still doing that and it's still being noticed, because I think that's one of the things that distinguishes our party from every other party. We are not just trying to elect candidates and then let them go do whatever they want. We are trying to integrate being for the kind of change for the world we deserve, as you put it, the world we want to live in, and being the practical people who try to elect people to office who can drive those things into policy.
And and by the way, Lori says, "Thank you, Betsy." So you've already touched at least one person who not. I mean, we've got thousands of people watching, but who has already written in to simply say thank you. So thank you, Lori, for thanking Betsy. And I really think it's important for people to understand Samantha Priest-Stinson, who is now a Green Party endorsed candidate running for city council, a former veteran. Just an incredible spokesperson, an African-American woman, and I saw her children. She's a wonderful mother and just a wonderful human being. But the fact of the matter is, she decided to get involved in electoral politics and made the decision from jump to do it through the Green Party, even though she had been a member and was a rising star in the Democratic Party, but just decided enough is enough. I need to actually be with a party that actually supports the values that I have. So this is a really important story to tell.
Yes, it is. And she'll probably tell you in more detail. But one thing I know is that she felt that she was a token. She was tokenized by the Democratic Party. They wanted a person of color, a woman of color, to be in a high position, but they didn't really want to hear what she had to say. They didn't want her to lead. They wanted her to sit there and look pretty, I guess. And when she came to the Green Party, she realized, we really want your voice. We want you to be you, and we want you to do what you perceive is the best thing that fits in with what we want to do. And she's been an awesome candidate.
Yes, and I can't help but to see that I've seen her in Democracy Now! I've seen her on RT America. I mean, she's already beginning to get nationally noticed, which of course makes me happy, and I know it must make you happy as well. Very. So listen, Betsy, I also want to just ask you, because I know that you've been involved in fights against corporate power and corporate rule. What's your current assessment about where we are? I mean, I know it's a hard question, but I'll just leave it at that. Where are we in this historic moment?
It is a hard question. It keeps seeming like we're reaching a point where everything's going to shift and we don't get there. And yet it does seem to me like we are at a point where things are going to really shift. It's so obvious that the two-party system isn't working, that the corporate domination isn't working. It's leading us towards fascism. It's leading us towards even faster going off the cliff of climate change. So many people are really reaching the point where I think they feel like they don't have as much to lose as they used to feel like they had. They can take a risk to go with a smaller party, with an upstart party, or to just leave the system behind and try to find something different that's going to work better.
Yeah. One of the ways that I talk about that, Betsy, is I encourage people I say, don't waste your vote on the failed two-party system that delivers war and climate crisis, environmental degradation, and class exploitation. So don't waste your vote on what obviously doesn't work. Invest your vote in a movement for peace, justice, democracy, and ecology. So, Betsy, we're coming near the end, so I want to give you a chance for any final thoughts.
I just think that this is actually a pretty cool and awesome time to be alive, even though I also feel anxiety and depression and despair some of the time. But really, there's so many things that can happen where people are coming out of the woodwork that are going to help the world to change even faster. And it is very exciting to be in the Green Party and to be a change agent right now.
It really is. I often say, Betsy, that we are blessed and cursed to be human beings at this moment in global world history, because, and I agree with you, we are fast approaching a moment where we're either going to win everything and restructure this society into that world that we want, or we can't win anything and we're literally going to go into fascism. The neoliberal center cannot hold. It's going to break. We know that. People sense it and feel it. So I'll conclude with this, folks, that Betsy, Becky, myself, and thousands of other Greens are laboring mightily to try to build an electoral arm for the growing movements for peace, justice, democracy, and ecology. but we need help, and we know we do. So the Green Party is a party of we. So if you're seeing or wondering why the Green Party isn't doing something, then you should ask yourself, how can you help us do those things? So as I always do, I'm going to sign off with a big thank you to our guests, Becky Smith and Betsy Barnum, an acknowledgement to Mel Figueroa, the executive producer of the Green News Network, a special thank you to Michael O'Neill, the technical director of this show, who just spent 5 grueling days basically being the main person, along with help of Dave Schwab and Mel Figueroa, but it really was Michael O'Neill who carried the laboring oar and really put his shoulder to the wheel at the Democracy Convention. So thank you for that. And I want to remind folks that this Green News Network and this program is growing because of you. So please continue to make comments, share this on your own Facebook page, on other groups that you're with. Remember that the corporate media is never going to allow these kind of conversations. But thanks to the fact that the net is still neutral, at least so far, is giving us a chance to talk to each other. So let's use this tool, share this stream with other people, let folks know that it's available. And if there are any people that you'd like to see interviewed on the Green News Network or on Democracy in Action, reach out to us and let us know. Betsy, thanks for what you're doing. Michael O'Neill, thanks for what you're doing. Peace.